What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Third Tactics Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Bobby D. And you know what? SOI. Let's go. We're going to be talking about all things World Cup, the knockout rounds, but more importantly, previewing the big matchup between Mexico and England. I'm going to be sharing some fun stories from the Mexico-Ecuador game. Time was had, dreams were made. I was there in the flesh. The cup has lived up to all of the hype and then some. So it's been great. Just all the surprise bangers of the games that there have been, the close games that they've spoiled us with. So, man, let's get into it, you know? Let's start off with, some of the most notable moments from the knockout rounds. I'd probably have to start with the biggest surprise and that first game or the first day. Every day it seemed like, oh, this was the best day of the tournament so far in these knockout rounds. And then they just kept getting topped and topped by the next day. But that first day of Paraguay beating Germany, man, I said it, y'all. Go back and check out what I said in those past, I think it was the first episode, where I was impressed with Germany's first performance, 7-1 Curacao, but I questioned them. I said, is it just because it's Curacao, or are they going to be able to get all of that talent to click? And in the next games, it didn't click. So they almost lost to Ivory Coast in the 2-1 win. Very last minute, one of their players had a brace to get them over the line and get a win. And then they lost to Ecuador. So, oof. And then Paraguay followed that up with a pretty good game against France. I mean, they lost 1-0. Some would say that's competitive, but I don't think Paraguay was there to really win. It was very defensive, no flow, choppy game, and kind of dirty. Then we can take a look at the bracket over here. I'm just gonna read it down. Basically, I couldn't watch that France Sweden game because I was at the Mexico Ecuador game, so I was walking to the stadium while the France game was happening. But I was just walking by, and there would be bars like, "Oh, Mbappe!" So I know Mbappe got two, so that was a good game for Mbappe, and they're off against Paraguay now instead of Germany, and they beat Paraguay. France will now face Morocco, who I had beating Netherlands in my bracket. Pop that up real quick. I had Morocco in the bracket. I knew it would be a close game. I knew it would probably go into penalties. Even the penalties were nail biters, though, so that was crazy. Both teams missed a couple. It was the post putting in work, honestly. And then Portugal, I gave the nod to Portugal in that game, even though while we were watching, I was with Croatia. My heart was with Croatia and Modric, Kovacic. That last goal that was overturned because of the offsides was way too close because of the good hair touching. No way, man. The hair touch, that's crazy. But that's a good reason why I'm anti-VAR and all the technology that's been put in the game. But honestly, on the other side, it's pretty sick to have like that millimetrical of wavelengths in the Trionda ball. The next game I'd probably talk about is Spain Austria, just because Spain looked like Spain. They were creative and just dominated that game against Austria. But their game against Portugal is going to be a good measuring stick. And it's going to be some good revenge because that is the Euro finals that I think it's Spain's last technical loss, even though they're not counting it because it was a PK loss, but I count it. It'd be fun to see a Mexico and Spain final, you know? No? Mexico's been playing really good. It would just be fun because Lamine against Gil. Gilberto Mora, 17-year-old against recently turned 18 or 19-year-old in Lamine. So that would be a really great game. but we'll see if that happens. That would be amazing. I called it here first. I called it here first. DTP. The USA Bosnia game was pretty dirty in my standards. Honestly, I know it was just that Bosnia was all over the place, and it was one of the dirtier games I've seen this tournament. Balogun's red card was controversial. I'm not going to deny that, but it was a red card. And I feel that it was a red card because that tackle was dirty and right on the ankle, could have really affected that player. I mean, probably, I think they did sub him out. So if they lose a player, then USA should lose a player too. And I'm only saying that because it happened already in the tournament with Canada and Qatar. So Canada's player gets their leg broken. The Qatar player didn't mean to break the leg. He just happened to go in for that tackle and the leg broke. Now he gets a red card. So, I mean, that's kind of the same thing that happened here. Balogun didn't mean to go into that tackle, but it was a nasty tackle. Um, so it was just unfortunate, honestly. And their game against Belgium will be pretty tough now. So they really have to focus on finding a way to get some offense going because Belgium has struggled in that, even though they got a couple late goals against Senegal to put them over the line. Brazil's win over Japan. That one wasn't really convincing for me. That was another game where I had Brazil going through on the bracket, but Japan, I was rooting for Japan, man. And that last minute goal from Brazil was so deflating. And, you know, aside from Mexico, I think Japan's fans are probably the best fans in the world. So it just sucked seeing all of them, how sad they got, how, you know, they were so hopeful. Even to go into the extra time or PKs, like I think that they could have handled that Brazil in the long run. But I guess I thought wrong, right? Moving on to the talk of the tournament, Cabo Verde. You know, even though they came up short, the world now knows who Cabo Verde is. Taking the defending champs, you know, all the way to the very last minute in extra time and almost forcing penalties, but Argentina was able to pull off a goal, you know, in the last 10 minutes of extra time. But honestly, props to Cabo Verde, props to Bolsinha, props to that wing back that scored that banger of a goal. The world now knows who Cabo Verde is, so props to them, and they deserve lots more to come. Finally, you know, with the knockout rounds, I think the biggest highlight there is Mexico's masterclass against Ecuador. You know, the stadium, it was bumping in there. It was pouring down rain. I think it started raining like a good half hour before the game was originally going to start. And then they pushed it back another hour. So it was a good amount of time in there that we had, but all the fans stayed in their seats. Like no one left the building. No one was hiding in the tunnels and stuff. Everyone was in their seats, dancing, singing, drinking, everything, man. It was awesome. I think another big part was that the players felt it too, you know? Before the game, it was bumping in there in the stadium before the match started, you know, because of that build up. I feel like the players felt how much the fans were into the ambience and making it such a big factor in the game. And Mexico started the game off flying. You know, they had a bunch of opportunities early. And I think I saw a graphic like in the first 20 minutes or the first 10 minutes that Ecuador only had 44 seconds in possession of Mexico's half. So couldn't ask for anything more, really. You know, I feel like some score lines don't tell the full story of the match. You know, 2-0, a lot of people say it's the most dangerous score line in soccer, and I agree. But this game easily could have been 4-0. I think that was something, you know, Mexico kind of had to capitalize more on. That's one area where they can improve. But other than that, defense stayed steady. No goals allowed still, 8-goal differential. So a beautiful match on Mexico. And it's a tough one now. Today's the day. We have the matchup of England and Mexico. You know, El Tri versus the Three Lions. Fish tacos versus fish and chips. Caifanes contra the Beatles. You know, this is going to be amazing. England versus Mexico. And Estadio Azteca is a different animal. You know, it's like one of the most holiest soccer grounds in soccer, in football. It's held two World Cup finals. It's recently renovated and it's rocking in there. So looking at the numbers, Mexico should be clear favorites. I don't understand why Vegas has, they're both slight underdogs, I guess you could say, but they have Mexico as more of an underdog. I think like last time I checked, it was plus 210 and plus 140, 210 for Mexico. But, you know, given Mexico's playing at home in the Azteca, in the altitude, the lack of travel that they didn't have to do, you know, England has been kind of bouncing around the US and now welcome to Mexico, baby. I just think I don't understand how Vegas doesn't have Mexico as the favorites, you know? Mexico's coming off of a 19 game unbeaten streak. This will be 20 games, 20 right here, unbeaten. They went 16, this will be 17 wins and then 3 ties since last June in their loss to Switzerland in an international friendly. It's all good. But in the tournament, they got the perfect record. All wins. England's got the tie against Ghana. They got all clean sheets, no goals against, a better goal differential with +8 now, and I think England has +5 or 6. It's just, I don't understand how we're not favorites. Looking at it by their matchups, if you want to go by it like that instead of the numbers, I feel like Mexico has one more dominant. The no score lines and all clean sheets kind of has it said, but you know, Ecuador ranked higher in the FIFA rankings than Congo, and they qualified only, I think, behind Argentina in CONMEBOL. So England, you know, they kind of had it easy, not easy, but they dominated in their qualifiers, didn't have a doubt. But they struggled against Ghana. They weren't able to really produce there. They struggled against the Panama side that is, I wouldn't say similar to, but they got that CONCACAF style. So Mexico is a little more fluid and has a much more dominant midfield. So I think despite the 2-0 scoreline that they had against Panama, I think really they were frustrated in that game. And I think that's what's going to happen at the Azteca. And then they're going to get tired. Congo gave Portugal a good match, but Ecuador beat Germany. So I think that kind of ranks their matchups too. So with that said, you know, I feel like the biggest place that Mexico has to be worrisome is on that right wing on their end, where Jorge Sanchez, the right back, is going to be going up against probably Marcus Rashford. So you got to hold steady, man. Hold steady, Sanchez. Like, you've been kind of diving in a lot in the tackles. You really got to hold steady, give Rashford that space to work until he makes a mistake, until he tries to explode, and you're there to make the proper tackle. I think that's really the only place that Mexico has to be worried about. Madueke on the other side, but if one side isn't working, I don't think the other side is going to be working because the speed isn't going to be a factor, I feel. I hope. I think the midfield of Mexico is superior than England's, even going into depth. The bench, you know, England just has Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham as their, you know, main forces. But Jude has been playing kind of more like a false nine. Like, Kane's been dropping in and kind of creating some opportunities for Jude. So that's going to be something to look out for. But Mexico's kind of been doing the same thing with a lot of movement on their line. So I think it'll be a good chess match to kind of see who's going to be doing some more movement and controlling the other team's movement. You know, going into the bench for England, you have Anderson and Henderson, but Anderson and Declan Rice have been coming off of some knocks, so they've been both hurt a little bit, restricted minutes. So that's going to be something, especially in the altitude, that you're going to have to be looking out for, cramps or all of that. And then Henderson, who's a little bit of an older body now. Mainu, who I haven't seen him this World Cup yet. Let me know if you guys have. While Mexico have Lira and Romo, who've been doing some great chemistry in the middle. Both center mids have been kind of letting each flow. Usually it's been Romo kind of going up, being more of a creative presence and attacking, and Lira holds that midfield strong in the defensive side. Then you have Gilberto Mora, that's been a sensation. Uh, as soon as they took him out in that game against Ecuador, you could kind of feel the level of creativity and attack go down a little bit. I know they were already 2-0 up and they were more defensive then, but it was still noticeable to see when Gilberto came out. And then even then, like the applaud he got in the after he got taken out was really cool to see for a young 17-year-old. And then the bench shows up too. I'm not saying they didn't create anything, but they knew their responsibilities and they didn't have as much freedom as El Vasco gives Gilberto to just roam around a little bit. Like Brian Gutierrez does get that freedom. Also a youngster. But Chavez, Vargas, and Pineda, they've all been really, really strong and important. And then I couldn't forget. Why am I forgetting Fidalgo, man? Fidalgo has given 3 assists. He's up there with the leading assist guys. So 3 assists this World Cup. He's been really important on facilitating these goals, man. Now going into the defense, England's defense has some dangerous wing backs. Nico O'Reilly, fellow City guy. Reece James on those wings, but they lack in their center backs, and that's coming from me. I just said City guy in Nico O'Reilly, but the center backs for England in Mark Gahey and John Stones, they're choppy. They're choppy sometimes. You could see it. I think it happened a couple mistakes in crucial moments in the Premier League for City with Gahey, and there's John Stones' passing is great. It's really, really, really great. He can find feet from anywhere, but he gets a little too confident sometimes, and that's where mistakes happen. So we got to capitalize off of that. And then there's not much to say about Mexico's defense other than lock down. They've been perfect every game. The biggest doubt, I think, the one where they left most doubt was South Korea, and that was when Montes was serving his red card suspension. So I wouldn't really worry too much about that because they were able to hold out. They had a good game even without him. So that shows depth in defense. And that just leaves the attack. Who will slot in more goals? The duo between Jimenez and Quinones, they've been electric. I know both of their goals back to back in the last game against Ecuador had all of us rocking at the stadium. They've been spectacular. And we haven't even seen Santi Jimenez make a big mark yet. He's been very marketable and getting all these ads and everything, but now he's got to score some goals and help us get to the finals. Help Mexico get to the finals. And England, where they really have to depend on Harry Kane to slot in the majority of their goals. I think Montes is going to have to be a really big factor in the headers and clearing out any centers that they bring to the table, because I think of Kane's 5 goals, 3 of them are headers. So that's going to be a big factor. I think Montes has what it takes. And if not, and even get a goal of his own, because in the Gold Cup, he had, I think, three goals in that tournament. So don't count him out on his own goals for the corner. That leaves Rashford, Madueke, and or Saka on the wings. Like I said, Rashford is the one I said to look out for. I think he can have a game where he pops off, but I don't think it'll be enough. Because I think Sanchez will step up to the plate, and I think they know that they're going to be trying to load up on that. So they'll be playing a little more defensively on that side. But yeah, that's my take. Other than that, my experiences from the game. It was amazing. It was my first time going to Estadio Azteca. So I got to live it up. I loved it. The walk in, it started raining like right as we started getting in, like 20 minutes once we got into the stadium. But as we were walking in, going through over bridges, through the little streets on the town, it was, an experience. It was culture all around me. From the Dr. Simi's dancing around and stuff, DJ booths like in the middle of the street, mariachi bands, random people singing, Congo lines. It was just a party all over the place, man. And then getting into the stadium, once we were in there, just enjoying the different activations that they had to offer, different picture areas, museums, and then it started pouring and everyone was running to the store. Got myself a little hoodie, so that was cool. And then we got the trash bag Imperiables that FIFA's branded, so they're able to just price up and a bunch. But once we got in there, like I said, we got to see the broadcast booths that had Guardado there. I got my picture with Guardado. When we were in there for the warm-ups, I was yelling at Rafa Marquez, that fool turned legend right there. Said what's up to us, so that was cool. Blessed to have, front row seats, man. That was insane. Insane. Experience of a lifetime. It was one I'll never forget, honestly. On the way out, celebrating with random people, singing, and then just, seeing everyone harmoniously sing in the Azteca. It was one for the sights, man, honestly. It was amazing. All right, you guys. So for this Sunday episode, thought we'd do a little bit of some Sticker Sunday. Open up some sticker packs from my Panini World Cup album that we got going. So I got some pretty good ones. I got Messi, but I left that for my son. So let's see what we got. Maybe we'll get another Messi in here. Cucurella. Ruben Diaz with the blue outline. It's pretty solid. Zion Suzuki. I'm going to give this one to my boy Eric. David Ospina. Not even Colombia's goalie no more. I'm weak. Panini, you got to update these, bro. You didn't have Tala as Mexico's goalie. I think you had Malagon. Come on now, Panini. Hit me up. I can help you get the rosters going and stuff for next World Cup's album. I got you. John Sutar from Scotland. Oh, I missed this guy. Thalente Mbata, South Africa. Then we got Shogo Taniguchi, Japan. Those were made. Let's go next pack. Let's see what we got. Roberto Fernandez, Paraguay. Damn, feel for you, brother. Just lost, man. We got the Ghana Association flag. Zeno de Bast from Belgium. See him against USA coming up. We got the Croatia national team picture. Feel for them, man. Tough loss against Portugal. Dukins Nazan from Haiti. Martin Odegaard. Odegaard, man. It's a good midfielder right there. I think Norway has a really good chance of beating Brazil. I really do. Like I said, I wasn't thrilled about Brazil's performance. And I think Norway, even though they had a choppy performance against Ivory Coast, it was a very nerve-wracking game. Their first knockout game in the World Cup, I think in like 40 years or if not ever. And so they had some nerves to shake off, and they did. Haaland got a goal again. So I think going into this Brazil game, it's going to be a great matchup against Haaland and Gabriel. We love seeing that when they play against each other in Man City and Arsenal. So I think they'll get the edge over Brazil because of the fluidity in their play. I think they just have a little more confidence in them, whereas Brazil kind of relies too much on their big star players to create themselves, whereas in Norway helps each other create. Final of this pack. I was going to say before these last two, I was going to say this one was kind of even lower than mid, but we got Mbappe. So now we got Mbappe and Messi, the two top goal scorers of the tournament so far. That golden boot, getting a replay of last World Cups. Third pack now, opening it up. Sweden's Isak Kien. We got Bosnia's Demrimovic. We got a blue framed Chechen Kreshki. Davinson Sanchez from Colombia. Colombia's been looking hot, man. I know I didn't really talk much about their game, but they look pretty dominant, you know. Ghana, like I said, Ghana gave England a really tough time. They weren't able to put any through against them. So Colombia, you know, showed out. There was some injuries early in the game. Both teams had to sub out a player, I think, in the first like 15 minutes. So that was unfortunate. But then after that, the game got flowing and Colombia just took over, really had a lot of opportunities. Lucho Diaz looked good. So Colombia would be fun to watch. Switzerland, be careful, but Switzerland's attack has been looking good too. Mbolo. Next one we got is South Africa's Alhamdan. Then we got Canada, Bombito. Damn, I didn't see this guy. Moise Bombito. I like that last name, bro. Canada, unfortunate for them. Uzbekistan's Nasrulayev. Next pack. Let's run it. Sticker Sunday. Oh, El Chucky. Chucky. Fire. Starting off this pack, fire. Then we got Croatia, Peter Sucic. Oh, man, look at this. Bebe from Cabo Verde. Where's that? Yes, I think so. We gotta check it back here. Yep, CPV, Cabo Verde. Bebe. Dang, this one's fire. This is a good pack, guys. We got Brazil historic team from 2002. That's fire. We got the Germany team that flunked out, lost to Paraguay. Couldn't click. Belgium's Romelu Lukaku. Legend right there, legend. He doesn't really show up in the World Cup, though. That's a knock on him. Then we got another Cabo, Kevin Pina. Last pack, y'all. Last pack. Gotta get 5 in. Last pack right here. Let's see what we got. That was the best pack right there, probably. That was the best pack. Some good ones. All right. This one we got Australia, Lewis Miller, goalie right there. Then we got Czechia's Kreshki. I think we got this guy earlier. Yep, but the one earlier was the blue. So we got 2 Kreshki, but one is the blue frame. Got Jordan's Sabra, Ibrahim Sabra. Another Jordan player, back to back, Abu Zaraki. Morocco. Oh, my guy right here. This guy got the brace against Canada. Unahi, stud for Morocco. Stud. Leroy Sané for Germany. Not bad. And if this would have been Gabriel, that would have been fire. This says Brazil's Marquinhos, though. Gabriel would have been fire if we would have gotten that. But then I'm missing Holland. I gotta go back, get some more, see if I can get Holland. And I mean, I got Mbappe. I don't know. I'd say maybe just fill out the Mexico team would be the next goal on the album list. Out Costco, they got the fire bundle for the Panini albums. And like I said, Panini, hit me up because I can get you guys like pinpoint on the rosters, guys. Come on. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been a great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that breakdown of the Mexico or the preview of the Mexico and England game. It should be a great one. I hope it's not clean sheets, honestly, even though my heart will be bouncing out of my chest. But I hope it is a really exciting game. Maybe like a 3-1 Mexico, I think is what I'm going to go with. I want 3 goals to 1 Mexico. And then, maybe even Harry Kane will score the first one. And then Mexico will settle down a little bit. And boom. Let's go Quiñones, Gilberto Mora, and then Montes with 3 goals. That would be wild. Like all the years. You heard it here first on Dirty Tactics Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said again, your host, Bobby D. Stay tuned for more episodes. Go Mexico. Vamos.